It's Doyle Burke, D-O-Y-L-E. Last name's Burke, B-U-R-K-E.
All right, so what's the latest from Procter & Gamble?
Well, as you know, police responded to Procter & Gamble shortly after 5 p.m. today on an infant in an unattended vehicle, and that did turn out to be the case. The little girl was 15 months old, and she was left unattended in the car by an employee who worked there, obviously. We now have the little girl. She's been transported to the Montgomery County Coroner's Office, who we contract with for the medical exam, and a full medical exam will be conducted in the morning. The Mason Police Department is conducting interviews of the parents and some scene investigation with the vehicle, and that's ongoing even as I speak.
Was the baby left in the car all day? Do you know how long it was in the car?
It appears to be all day.
So how many hours exactly?
Roughly from early morning hours, 7:30, 8 a.m. until the discovery at 5 p.m.
Who called 911? Did you know?
The mother.
The mother did?
The mother of the little girl called 911 upon the discovery. First call to dispatch was at 5:02 p.m.
So did mom go to P&G for work? She arrived at work and left the baby in the vehicle?
That's my understanding at this point, but those interviews are being conducted by the police department.
Does it appear to be an accident?
Well, it's too early for me to say that. On appearances, it would be, but I mean, it's way too early in the investigation for me to make a determination as to that.
Has she explained, did she have a change in her schedule?
Well, and then that also, she's being interviewed by the Mason Police Department detectives, and I'm not privy to what's transpiring there at this point in time.
Does that P&G facility have a daycare on site that you're aware of?
That I'm not sure of.
Was it all related to the heat?
Well, I mean, obviously, the medical exam will be conducted tomorrow, but on appearances, certainly the child left in the car, even though it wasn't sweltering hot today, it's obviously going to be hotter in the car. And certainly a 15-month-old is more susceptible to something like this than an adult. So that's the theory we're working under, but that'll all either be verified or not tomorrow during the actual medical exam.
And the baby in this parking lot, was there a lot of activity, other people walking past possibly?
Truthfully, this is an employee parking lot, so I would imagine they're all on the same schedule, so there's probably little to no activity there once your car is parked and you go in to do your shift.
Where was she found in the car? Was she in a car seat?
She was in a car seat, in the rear seat because of her age. In the rear seat, the car seat was.
15-month-olds are typically not quiet, so you know, they babble, they talk. I know it's really early in the investigation, but it just seems odd for a child of that age.
Well, I mean, that's all kind of subjective as to was there anybody there to hear anything if the child was babbling, or you know, some children are talkative or, like you say, kind of babbling at that age, and some are not. But I mean, that's all things that may or may not be disclosed in the actual investigation, but certainly we don't know the answers to that now.
Can you tell us when the last time you investigated a baby death in the backseat of a car here in Warren County?
I don't recall there being one here in Warren County in our time here. Do you?
As far as a potential heat-related death?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this happens a lot here or if this is a first in a while.
I've been dealing with this for a long time, but I don't recall any case in Warren County of a death of an infant as a result of being left in a vehicle. I mean, obviously, sometimes there's babies or young children as far as a motor vehicle fatality in a car, but that's not what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So this doesn't happen with great frequency, thank goodness, but I mean, usually when it does happen around the nation, it frequently does make the news because it is such a traumatic experience for the family, but it does happen.
Can you explain more about the mother's demeanor, how she was acting?
I've never even been in contact with her. That's all through the police investigation.
Can you release the name of the child or the name of the...
Not at this time.
What do we know about the father?
I know nothing about the father.
Will the autopsy be conducted tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow morning.
Can you say at all what she does at P&G?
I don't know what she does. She's an employee there, but I have no idea what her job is.
What kind of charges could the mother be facing?
Man, that's a question for the prosecutor. And all that still, again, is contingent upon the investigation and what the medical exam findings are.
Talk about how difficult this was for first responders on the scene today. 15-month-old little girl in the back of a car, dead.
Well, anytime you've got, it's hard to rank tragedies, but I mean, anytime you've got something like this, you have the added problem of it is a little girl. It is preventable. So as a first responder, I mean, the medics are doing everything they can, the police are doing everything they can, and obviously we come in after them, and we're trying to do our part of it, but, it's just tragic. But that's what we do.
This comes at a time when the county's dealing with another infant death. It's not something you guys deal with very often.
I mean, not with the frequency that we do other things, such as obviously drug overdoses, traffic accidents, things of that nature, but it's not that we're immune to things like this. They don't occur with a great frequency, but we get them often enough, too often.
As far as children, if you're implying, probably the most common thing we deal with is either an overlay where an adult or another sibling is in an unsafe sleep environment with a small baby, and in other cases, positional asphyxia where a child may be placed down in a comforter or a water bed or some other unsafe sleep environment. So those are typically the kind of things when we're dealing with infant deaths that are the most common occurrences that we deal with.
I know today was definitely one of our cooler days that we've had in a long time, but still it got up in the 80s temperature-wise. How hot was it in that vehicle throughout the day, potentially?
Well, I mean, again, that would just be a guess on my part, but I mean, obviously, you can kind of do the math. If it's 80 degrees outside, plus, obviously, it's the sun shining. Is the sun shining in the vehicle? Is it not? I mean, it's just so variable. It's hard to say, but obviously it got hot.
Can you talk about just how quick it can happen to someone just that small?
Well, unfortunately, it's one of those things that you can't do a prospective study and put a human in a car when it's going to heat up and figure out how long it takes before they pass out or how long it takes before they have a heat stroke. So, I mean, it's one of those things that you could take a car and you could put a thermometer in there. You could measure the internal temperature inside of a vehicle based on, what the external temperature is. But that's one of those kind of things that it's really hard to do a study or to have scientific data to say, well, how long would it take for a person, whether it's an adult or a child, to succumb to elevated temperature. So it's a difficult question to answer.
I know that can't release names. Can you say how old this mother is by any chance?
Actually, I don't even have an idea how old she is, to be honest with you. I know our little girl is 15 months old.
Do you know there any cameras in the parking lot
Deerfield.
that you will be looking at?
I'm sorry.
Any cameras in the parking lot?
They're checking, but not that we're aware of.
Do you know where the family is from, where
No.
they're currently living?
No.
Does she have any other kids?
I don't know that either.
Is that something you guys are concerned about? If she has?
Well, I mean, obviously the police are looking into that. They would be the ones who would make the call as to whether or not, if they did, there was any removal that was deemed necessary or not. But I don't have any idea on that.
This also might be outside of the scope of what you know, but there are security officers on Procter & Gamble's property. Had they been patrolling throughout the day? Did they possibly come across this area without seeing?
And then there again, that will be something that Mason PD will look into and are looking into, but I don't know if they just have like gate guards or if they have an active patrol that checks the lot. But again, even if they did, the average car, what do you see from driving around in a parking lot, especially a small child in a car seat in the back seat? It'd be difficult to see.
Does this have any impact on her employment status with P&G? Does she still?
Oh, I would have no idea about that either.
Is this a lesson that people can learn?
Well, certainly anytime something like this happens that's preventable, it's a wake-up call to anyone that has children. Just be careful.
Everybody good?
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. I'll be here for another hour while they take all this off.